If you are a complete beginner to Microsoft Azure Cloud and want to learn Azure step by step, then this video course is just for you. Hello and welcome back to the Tech Blackboard. In today's video, we are going to take our first step to begin Microsoft Azure Fundamental Full Course Syllabus. Before I begin, I request you to download this PDF file. This will give you entire syllabus that we are going to cover in this video course. All the sections and subsections are given proper numbering so we can track our progress, create cross references during the course, and it will also enable you to ask relevant questions and doubts by mentioning the proper section numbering. You may watch the first part of this series for a better understanding on this PDF file. Links to download this PDF file for free is given in the description box. And friends, it's important to mention here that in previous 4 parts, we have already covered very basic cloud terms and terminologies that will prepare you better for the subsequent course. Highly recommend to watch all the previous parts. Links are available in the description box. So what are we going to learn today? Well, today we will learn how to define cloud computing, how to describe the shared responsibility model, and then we will see how to define cloud models including public cloud, private cloud and hybrid cloud. Then we will move towards identify appropriate use cases for each cloud model and then describe the consumption based model. We will also understand how to compare cloud pricing models. And friends, please note that this section holds a weightage of 25 to 30%. Which means that you should expect anywhere from 25 to 30% of the questions from this section itself. So goes without saying that this is quite an important section if you are preparing for AZ-900 certification exam. So let's begin with defining cloud computing, and to start with, I have here definitions of cloud computing from the 3 biggest cloud providers, Azure, AWS and GCP. First, we will read all these definitions and then we will try to find out some common attributes defining cloud computing. So let's begin with Microsoft Azure. Now, Microsoft Azure says that simply put, cloud computing is the delivery of computing services, including servers, storage, databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence over the internet, which they also refer as cloud, to offer faster innovation, flexible resources, and economics of scale. You typically pay only for the cloud services you use, helping you to lower your operating cost, run your infrastructure more efficiently and scale as your business needs change. Now let's move on with AWS. AWS says that cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. Instead of buying, owning and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage and databases on an as-needed basis from a cloud provider like Amazon Web Services, also known as AWS. And then we have Google GCP. Google GCP says that cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computing resources such as services over the internet. It eliminates the need of enterprises to procure, configure and manage resources themselves, and they only pay for what they use. So what are the key attributes of cloud computing that we can filter out from these 3 definitions? The first one is computing resources over the internet. So resources like servers, or you can say computing power, storage or even database or application, all these are being consumed over the internet. They are not on your physical laptop or your company owned data centers, but all these resources reside on the cloud provider's facilities and you as a user consume them over the internet. Then the second key attribute is on demand. On demand or self-service means that a customer can request and receive access to a service or resource without an administrator or some part of support staff having to fulfill the request manually. The request processes and fulfillment processes are all automated. Then the third important attribute is no ownership of resources. As I mentioned in the first point, all the resources reside on cloud providers' facilities and you as a user consume them over the internet. And this means that you don't have to own any of the resources, you just use them. For example, your mobile bill or your electricity bill, you consume some mobile bandwidth or a certain amount of power for which you are charged by the mobile companies or the electricity companies. And this concept of paying for what you consume is also known as pay as you go. Moving on, the fourth important attribute is no upfront cost. Pay for what you use. You don't have to spend a huge sum of money to buy servers or storage or build a huge data center. You can just access the resources over the internet and pay for them, kind of like renting out. And this brings us to the fifth very important attribute, which is OPEX. The idea of renting out or paying as you go is essentially OPEX, or also known as operating cost or sometime operational cost. And friends, we have discussed OPEX versus CAPEX, which is capital expenditure, in the fourth part of this series. If you wish to dive more on this concept, watch the part 4. The link is right there in the description box. So that was our section 1.1.1, Define Cloud Computing. We started to learn from the definitions from the cloud providers, and then we extracted some of the key attributes from all these definitions. Friends, if there is something which is not clear or you want more information on any part of this section, do let me know in the comment section. You can also catch up with me on Instagram or Facebook. And of course, you can email us at connectus@thetechblackboard.com. Our next section, which is section 1.1.2, is about describe the shared responsibility model. First, let's try to understand what does it even mean by shared responsibility model, what exactly is shared and between whom. Simply put, it is a sort of framework that dictates the obligation and accountability to maintain the resources like physical data center, ensuring its security, maintaining or replacing the other hardwares like servers, accounts and identities, and many other similar resources. For example, when a company owns a data center, or also known as on-premises data center, then the entire responsibility starting from maintaining physical data center, physical network, physical host, operating system, network controls, application, identities and directory infrastructure, accounts and identities, devices and information and data. For all these resources, the company or the individual users are responsible. But when it comes to the cloud computing, these responsibilities are shared between you or the company, enterprises, and between the cloud providers like Azure, AWS, and GCP. As you can see in the infrastructure as a service or IaaS, the responsibility to create and maintain physical data center, physical network, and physical host is now shifted towards the cloud provider. So here you can see the blue dot, which represents the customer or the companies or the enterprises, whereas the gray dot represents Microsoft Azure, which is a cloud provider. But still, the responsibility to maintain operating system, network controls until information and data still lies with the customer. Now let's take one step further towards PaaS or platform as a service. And here we can see the responsibility of cloud service provider now also includes the operating system. So here you can see now we have a gray dot, which represents that operating system is now taken care by Microsoft Azure. And now comes the interesting part. For network controls, applications, identity and directory infrastructure, in these three layers, now you can see these dual colored circles, which means that some part of the responsibility is with the cloud service provider and some part of the responsibility is with the company or the individual users like you and me. Moving up, we can see the responsibility to maintain accounts and identities, devices and information and data still lies with the customer. Now, as we take a next step towards SaaS or software as a service, we can now observe that the cloud service provider responsibilities are increasing, and now the scope is even further extended until the application layer. In contrast to this, the responsibility scope of customer is shrinking, and now it is limited to accounts and identities, devices and information and data. Meanwhile, identities and directory infrastructure still remains as a shared responsibility. So this was the concept of shared responsibility model, starting from on-premises data centers where the customer is responsible for everything. As we move deeper towards the cloud, from IaaS to PaaS to Saas, the cloud service provider takes the ownership of creating or maintaining more and more resources. And this is indeed really great stuff. Remember, in the second part of this series, I said that with cloud, more and more heavy lifting activities are now taken care by the cloud service provider, and you or the companies or the enterprises is now free from the burden. And friends, the concept of shared responsibility is very important. Consider this, that you or your company are not in IT business. You are not an IT company. Maybe you are in business of clothing or you are a home furnishing company. Why on earth you would want to do a heavy job of creating and maintaining data centers? And not only that, my friends, you have to keep a super expert IT staff to maintain these data centers. But because you are not an IT company, this is not your core business. So lot of company resources, money and time get wasted in maintaining these kind of resources which are even not your business. That's why it makes a lot of sense to move towards cloud technologies where the cloud service provider takes the responsibilities of all the heavy lifting jobs, and you or the companies are now free to focus more on business related activities. And that's why I always say that cloud computing is such a blessing for all of us. Now let's move to our next section, section 1.1.3, which is about define cloud models, and then we will understand what is public cloud, private cloud and hybrid cloud. First, let's define the cloud models. So the cloud models means the deployment type of cloud resources. There are three major types of cloud deployment models. The first one is public cloud, then we have private cloud, and the last one is hybrid cloud. So friends, in the part 3 of this series, I explained in detail what is public cloud, private cloud and hybrid cloud. But here, once again, let's revise the concept with some more information. I request you to also watch part 3 as it gives some more different set of information on public cloud, private cloud and hybrid cloud. The link for the same is available in the description box. So private cloud is a cloud where the companies maintain an on-premises data center and all the cloud servers are maintained on-premises. Though it is generic practice but not mandatory, private clouds can also be hosted in a dedicated data center which are not on-premises of the company, but a third-party provider provides that. So private cloud, be it hosted on premises or maybe by third parties, an important characteristic of private cloud is that they are dedicated to a single entity. This concept is also known as single tenant in cloud jargon. As compared to this, the public cloud, on the other hand, all the computing resources are held by a cloud service provider like Microsoft Azure in their data center, and the companies or enterprises consume all these resources over the internet. Coming to the hybrid cloud, which is like best of both worlds. It is a combination of capabilities both from private cloud and public cloud. So basically, enterprises can still be using their on-premises data center, but in parallel, they can extend their capabilities using public cloud. Now let's look at the characteristics or the benefits for each. Private cloud is single tenanted as we discussed. Then the hardware resources, or in fact all the resources, are on premises, which gives you a direct control over the underlying cloud infrastructure. Then we have public cloud, which is multi-tenant architecture, which means that it serves to multiple companies or enterprises or multiple individuals for that matter. Resources are owned by cloud providers and you just use them and pay for them in pay-as-you-go pricing model. Lastly, we have hybrid cloud, and as I just mentioned, it is a combination of public cloud and private cloud. Thus, it provides bursting capabilities. Now, please do not get confused by the term bursting capabilities. It just means a hybrid cloud environment can be used to allow a private cloud to search for increased temporary demand by deploying public cloud resources. And now comes the different popular vendors for each cloud model category. So starting with the private cloud, we have VMware, Dell, IBM, Red Hat, Microsoft and OpenStack. And then for the public cloud, we have Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS and Google GCP. Moving on to the hybrid cloud, as the nature of hybrid cloud is, it combines the vendors from both private cloud and public cloud. Now friends, there is actually one more type of cloud becoming really popular, and that is multi-cloud. Basically, multi-cloud, as the name suggests, is the combination of multiple cloud providers. Maybe you can use some features from Azure, some from GCP, or some from AWS. And just to give you example, Microsoft Arc and Google Cloud Anthos are great example of multi-cloud. Now that you understand what are the different cloud deployment models, what are their characteristics, and what are the different major cloud vendors available for each deployment model, the next step is to understand what are the exact use cases, or should I say, where should you use private cloud, where should you use public cloud, and where should you use hybrid cloud. So let's understand this, which brings us to the section 1.1.4, and this will give you details on different use cases of various cloud models. Let's begin with private cloud. The first use case is the need for specialty hardware or the configuration. Many times enterprises have needs for very specific hardware or configuration which might not be available with cloud providers. In this case, a private cloud could be a very good choice. Similarly, when the company is operating in highly regulated industries, or maybe it needs to follow the government regulations, private cloud is a good choice. The third use case can be the need of low network latency. As I have mentioned many times, cloud computing is totally dependent on internet, and the companies with some mission critical objective, public cloud might not be the most suitable choice, and thus making private cloud a better choice. And then we have fourth use case as cost benefits for the large enterprises. So friends, you need to understand that some of the organizations are too big, and thus for them setting up their own private cloud is more cost effective. So these are few use cases where private cloud is most suitable. Now let's check out public cloud. The first and very obvious use case for public cloud is migration of application and solution from on-premises data center. A very natural and first choice for many enterprises when they are moving from on-premises data center to cloud technologies. The second use case is web hosting on cloud. And then we have disaster recovery, which is another big use case for public cloud. Besides that, public cloud is also used for labs, training environments, and QA testing. A very interesting use of public cloud is short-term projects. When you are in need of short-term or temporary projects, public cloud is an interesting choice. Besides that, the need for global resources and data archiving are also good use cases for public cloud. Now let's move on to the hybrid cloud. The first and probably the best use case for hybrid cloud is cloud bursting. I briefly talked about cloud bursting just a while back. The term cloud bursting refers to a situation where the workloads are spilled over to a different cloud environment to meet the capacity demands. For instance, to handle a spike due to a seasonal traffic or a news event that drives the traffic to a particular application or website for a short period of time, you can use hybrid cloud to burst out resources. The second popular use case for hybrid cloud is high availability and disaster recovery. You can extend your existing data center or private cloud capabilities to make it more robust and resilient using hybrid cloud. And then of course, there are times where you can use hybrid cloud to meet the regulatory requirements. So are these the only use cases for different cloud models? Well, certainly not. There are n numbers of possibility and sky is the limit. I have just given you a quick start to think. So friends, you can also share what are the other use cases that you can think of and let us know in the comment section. This way other viewers can also benefit. We can all learn from each other. Now let me tell you about consumption-based model, which is our section 1.1.5. Remember in the part 4, I described in quite some detail on CAPEX, which means capital expenditure, and OPEX, which means operational expenditure. I also explained the differences between them. Well, you can say that consumption-based model comes under OPEX or operational expenditure. Time to revise? Well, why not? So once again, capital expenditure is typically a one-time huge upfront expenditure to purchase or secure tangible resources such as data centers, buildings, or vehicles for the company. On the other hand, OPEX is spending money on services or products over the period of time. It is just like paying rents for using some of the services. For example, your mobile bills and electricity bill can be categorized as operational expenditure. So in case of your mobile bills and electricity bills, every month you get a bill based on the number of calls you have made or how much power you have used. So this means that you pay based on your consumption, and that's exactly what consumption-based model is. So what are the benefits of consumption-based model? Let's check them out. The first and foremost benefit of consumption-based model is that there is no upfront cost. Secondly, you don't have to block a huge sum of money in buying costly resources and infrastructure. And then thirdly, you only pay for what you use. In traditional data centers, you pay for the entire resources in the data center, whether you use them or they are sitting idle. And friends, the fourth and very big benefit of cloud computing is that you don't have to marry with the resources. Use them till the time you want and then stop using them, and of course stop paying for them. No obligation, no answerability whatsoever. I recommend you to watch fourth part of this series and understand CAPEX versus OPEX in much more detail. Links can be found in the description box. And this brings us to the section 1.1.6, which is all about compare the cloud pricing models. So friends, this section is a reinforcement of the concept we learned in the previous couple of slides. So let's check them out one by one. In cloud computing, you don't own resources, you just rent them and pay as you go. And then you don't need to maintain any hardware resources or like apply patches or do any heavy configuration. All these heavy duty tasks are taken care by cloud providers. And finally, when using cloud computing, one of the best benefits of cloud computing is that all the cloud service providers always try to offer you the latest technology in the market. And you are free from the hassles of upgrades, patches. You just pay and be able to use the very latest technologies available across the market. So today we learned a lot of important concepts. We started with defining cloud computing. We then understood what are the different cloud deployment models like public cloud, private cloud and hybrid cloud. Here we also learned about their major characteristics and use cases for each of them. We then talked about CAPEX, OPEX and consumption-based pricing models. In case you could not understand any part of this video, please watch the video again. Here I want to remind you that this section has 25 to 30% of total weightage in AZ-900 exam. Needless to say, it is a very important section, so please watch again, and in case you still are left with any doubt, do let me know in the comment section. And with this, we have come to the end of this section, Define Cloud Computing. Next week, we will begin with the section Describe the benefits of using cloud services. Friends, with the hope that you liked this session, may I humbly request you to please take a quick moment to appreciate the efforts that we put in bringing these cloud education videos to all of you. Your likes on the videos are greatest reward for us, so please hit that like button. Also subscribe to the channel without missing to press that bell icon to get timely notification of our all upcoming videos, and please do not miss to share our videos with your nears and dears. Connect with us and give us a shout out on other social media platforms. All the information is now flashing on your screen and also available in the description box. Thank you so much for your precious time and learning with us. I will see you in the next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.
If this video has added any value in your learning, a like and subscribe is highly appreciated. Share this video in your family and friends to spread and expand their learning. Your comments and feedback give me a chance to interact with you, and I look forward for them. We will meet again in our next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.